In Colombia, 2 people have died after a car bomb exploded.
Authorities say that the dissident group known as EMC may have been behind the attack. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Flores. This is Malacañang Agila International. Now for the headlines. President Marcos Jr. to expedite the approval of the Agricultural Economic Sabotage Bill. The Philippines inks the historic High Seas Treaty on Ocean Protection. Poland halts its arms exports to Ukraine over Kyiv's grain import row. Karabakh separatists yield amid Russia-Azerbaijan's 24-hour ceasefire. And King Charles III to address the French Senate to mend ties with France. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has urged the Senate to expedite the approval of a bill that seeks to redefine and impose more stringent penalties against agricultural economic sabotage. Vin Pasqua has the details.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. underscores that the Philippines is grappling with escalating prices and shortages due to the illicit activities of smuggling and hoarding essential agricultural and fishery products. The bill is currently pending in the period of interpellations in the Senate. One of the significant provisions includes a penalty of life imprisonment and a fine amounting to 3 times the value of the products involved in the crime. The proposed measure will also establish an anti-agricultural economic sabotage council to be headed by the president or a designated permanent representative. This council will play a critical role in ensuring the proper and effective implementation of the proposed law. Vin Pasqua reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Department of Budget and Management has approved the release of 12.259 billion pesos in housing assistance, aiming to support informal settlers and those affected by calamities. About 12.059 billion pesos of the allocated funds will be for calamity victims. The remaining 200 million pesos will be designated for the construction of 4 units of 5-story low-rise residential buildings in Western Visayas. These buildings will serve as new residences for informal settler families.
The Department of Health, or DOH, announced an 8% drop nationwide in rabies cases recorded during the same period in 2022. The data shows 259 rabies cases in the country from January 1 to September 2, 2023 on Thursday, September 21. However, the report also confirms that rabies cases rose steadily, with 29 in the previous month. The National Capital Region, or NCR, Regions 1 to 8, and Caraga are among the places with active cases. The Health Department reminds the public to clean the wound well and get vaccinated to prevent rabies from bites. Moreover, seek immediate medical help in nearby or at nearby health centers if bitten by animals. The Bureau of Animal Industry urged dog vaccinations and responsible pet ownership for rabies prevention.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. warmly welcomes the envoys from the Swiss Confederation and the French Republic. He expresses optimism that European nations will maintain their focus on Asia, especially the ASEAN bloc, when seeking promising investment opportunities. The president emphasizes that the Philippines and other ASEAN member states have united efforts to fortify the region's economic systems, effectively addressing the vulnerabilities exposed during the pandemic. Swiss Ambassador Nicholas Brawl concurs, affirming that the Swiss Foreign Ministry's Southeast Asia strategy underscores the paramount importance of the region to his country. He vows to deepen partnerships with the Philippines and the ASEAN in future collaborative projects.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, is in the planning stages of a defense cooperation with Bangladesh, focusing on enhancing collaboration in education and training. This came following the visit of General Qazi Anisuzzaman of the National Defense College of Bangladesh to the AFP headquarters on Wednesday. The National Defense College of Bangladesh is presently on its study tour in the Philippines, aiming to share and exchange views on the challenges and development strategies of both nations. This joint effort aims to contribute to the promotion of peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region.
The Philippines has signed the first ever international treaty on ocean protection under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. JD Mahina tells us more.
Foreign Affairs Chief Enrique Manalo has signed the historic High Seas Treaty on the Conservation and Sustainable Use of Marine Biological Diversity of Areas Beyond Nation Jurisdiction, or the BBNJ Agreement. This comes during the 78th United Nations General Assembly in New York. About 70 nations have signed the BBNJ to reaffirm their commitment to address pollution, climate change, and overfishing threats. Currently, nations are not limited to navigating, fishing, and conducting scientific exploration on coastal areas. Under the international treaty, a legal basis for conserving the marine environment in the high seas is established. This underscores the vulnerability of the oceans when it comes to exploitation. The agreement will enter into force 120 days after 60 countries greenlight the treaty. The BBNJ covers the areas of oceans that lie outside any nation's exclusive economic zone. JD Mahina reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Philippines has joined Japan and Australia in their call to restrain the use of fissile materials for warfare. Foreign Affairs Chief Enrique Manalo met with Japanese Premier or Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong in talks on fissile material cutoff. This came on the sidelines of the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. The three officials are pushing on a treaty that will require nations to dismantle fissile materials for military purposes. This also includes putting limits on a state's nuclear weapon expansion. Manalo reaffirmed that the Philippines is committed to the works of denuclearization as well as the push for nuclear disarmament.
The Philippines is mulling the filing of a new complaint against China before the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague, Netherlands. This is after the Philippine Coast Guard's, or PCG, reported massive damage to coral reefs in the West Philippine Sea. The Office of Solicitor General said they are in the fact-finding and data-gathering phase of the study of the new complaint. Solicitor General Menardo Guevara disclosed that their study is still premature until his office has completed its inquiry as well as evaluated the merits of every legal option. Armed Forces of the Philippines Western Command previously detected Chinese fishing vessels swarming in Rosal Reef and Escoda Shoal early this month, suspecting China to engage in massive coral harvesting. PCG later confirmed that no other foreign vessels were spotted from those areas except from Beijing. Coming up, Poland stops supplying weapons to Ukraine. Azerbaijan negotiates a ceasefire in Nagorno-Karabakh. And King Charles III prepares to address the French Senate. Stay tuned, Mata ng Agila International will return for more global news.
Subscribe mo, promo! Kanet 25. Tumutok lang sa aming mga programa via Facebook and YouTube live stream. At baka ikaw na ang manalo. Just follow and subscribe Net25 social media pages. At abangan ang Flying Agila na may dalang promo sticker during live stream. Isend ang screenshot ng pag-subscribe at pag-follow together with the promo sticker sa Net25 Entertainment Facebook page with the following details. Linggo-linggo ay pipili tayo ng weekly winners na mananalo ng Net25 giveaways at isang monthly winner na mag-uuwi ng Samsung Galaxy S21. Ano pang hinihintay nyo? Tumutok na dahil subscribe mo, promo!
3, 2, 1! Hey, it's PJ! Nanonood ba kayo ng Art Academy? Kung hindi pa, bakit? We have so many topics to share with you at may mga special guests pa. Let's Create to Express every Saturday 10:30am dito lang sa Net25.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida condemns Russia for its aggression against Ukraine. His pronouncement came at a press conference in New York following a meeting of the United Nations Security Council.
本日の安保理公開討論では、ロシアによるウクライナ侵略を改めて強く非難し、ロシアが侵略を直ちに停止し、ウクライナから撤退することを求めるとともに、核の威嚇やその使用は断じて受け入れられない旨、明確に述べました。
South Korean police raided 2 United States Army bases in a drug probe. A tip from the U.S. Army enforcement arm had prompted Korean authorities to begin its investigation 4 months ago. South Korean police and the U.S. Army's Criminal Investigation Division joined forces to raid Camp Humphreys and Camp Casey. The two enforcement agencies have seized 77 grams of synthetic cannabis and more than 4 kilograms of mixed liquid used for vaping. 22 suspects were arrested for allegedly distributing the drugs on the bases while communicating through the social messaging app Snapchat.
Russian President Vladimir Putin extends a warm welcome to the Chinese Foreign Minister in St. Petersburg for bilateral talks, emphasizing the robust relations between their two nations. The president also announces his upcoming plans to visit China next month. RT's Omayma H. Char tells us more.
The last time we saw each other was in February of this year. You came to prepare the visit of the President of the People's Republic of China, our good and great friend, President Xi Jinping. I would say that it was epoch-making. This concerns international affairs. Here we speak from a united position on the formation of a multipolar world. And of course, I gladly accepted the invitation of the President of the People's Republic of China to visit China in October this year as part of a major event to promote the idea of President Xi Jinping, which has already proven itself as an international brand, the Belt and Road Initiative. This is entirely in our interests.
As bilateral ties between Russia and China keep on developing, the Russian president met with Chinese foreign minister in St. Petersburg today. Now, earlier this week, the Chinese diplomat has also met with his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, and Russian Security Council Secretary Nikolai Patrushev, and they've discussed the Ukrainian conflict as well as the situation in the Asia-Pacific region. Now, when it comes to today's meeting, the Russian president touched upon the Chinese President Xi Jinping's last visit to Russia and how successful it was. He has said that it was an important sign of trust and high-level relations and cooperation between the two countries, as they both share similar views when it comes to the multipolar world. Now, the President Vladimir Putin has also said that he has accepted Chinese President Xi Jinping's invitation to visit China in order to participate in the third Third Belt and Road Forum this October. Now, on his part, the Chinese foreign minister has talked about the two countries setting clear outlines to further strengthen their relations as they both strive for peace and development. Let's take a listen.
First of all, I would like to convey to you sincere greetings and good wishes from President Xi Jinping. In the face of a turbulent and changing international situation, an accelerated process of multipolarity of the world is unfolding, but still there is a tendency towards anti-globalization. China is committed to the agreements between you and President Xi Jinping to strengthen mutual trust and coordinate actions in the international arena.
Now, regardless of the political situation in the world, it seems that both Russia and China continue to enrich and develop their relations in different spheres, whether it be economics, sports, or even culture.
Poland, one of Ukraine's closest allies, has said that it would no longer be supplying weapons to its neighbors as their diplomatic dispute over grain supply escalates.
We are also part of the jet fighters coalition, you might say, because we have delivered a significant number of our quite good fighter jets already. We will wait for the next steps of our partners in other countries, and we will decide what to do then.
Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki said Poland's focus was instead on defending itself with more modern weapons.
But at this juncture, I can tell you we are very active in training, in supporting Ukraine to defend their sky and to do everything possible to support Ukraine in defending from the rocket attacks.
Poland has already sent Ukraine 320 Soviet-era tanks and 14 MiG-29 fighter jets and has little more to offer. Poland summoned Ukraine's ambassador over comments made by President Volodymyr Zelensky at the United Nations after Poland, Hungary, and Slovakia extended a ban on Ukrainian grain. Urging Germany to provide the country with Leopard 2 battle tanks, pledging fighter jets to the country, and welcoming more than 1.5 million refugees from Ukraine. The country's military has depleted its own stockpiles by about a third through transfers to Ukraine and is in the process of replacing it with modern Western-produced hardware. Arms exports to Ukraine will not stop completely as Polish manufacturer PGZ is due to send about 60 Crab artillery weapons in the coming months.
India's lower house of parliament has passed a bill that will set aside one-third of its seats for women lawmakers. The law would also apply to state assemblies. Shen Kadusale tells us more.
The bill giving a third of India's lower house seats to women passed by a near unanimous majority with only 2 lawmakers voting against it. But the proposal will not go into effect until at least the end of the decade. It still requires approval from the upper house and half of the country's state legislatures. That means it won't come into effect until the 2029 national elections. Under the proposal, only women will be allowed to compete for 1/3 of the seats. It would remain in effect for 15 years and could be extended by Parliament. Presently, just over 13% of parliamentarians are women. Shen Kadusale for Malacañang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
U.S. President Joe Biden will host leaders of Pacific Island nations at the White House on Monday. Anne-Marie Gonzalez tells us more.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says President Joe Biden on Monday will reaffirm the U.S. commitment to shared regional priorities, including climate change, economic growth, and countering illegal fishing. The meeting with Pacific Island leaders comes 4 months after Biden was forced to scrap a historic visit to a summit of the Pacific Island Forum in Papua New Guinea. It happened during talks to avoid a U.S. debt default. President Biden hosted his first summit with the forum last year at the White House. The forum is an 18-member bloc of mostly small states scattered across a huge swath of ocean. Biden told the UN General Assembly earlier Tuesday that he wants to responsibly manage the competition between the US and China so it does not tip into conflict. Anne-Marie Gonzalez from Malacañang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Russia has launched a series of airstrikes targeting at least 8 regions in Ukraine overnight, deploying a total of 43 cruise missiles, 20 of which were directed at the capital city of Kyiv. Ukraine's regions of Cherkasy, Kyiv, Kharkiv, Rivne, and Lviv are among the areas hit by the missile strikes. 20 of the missiles were directed at key targets in the capital city of Kyiv. An industrial zone was struck in the western Lviv region, resulting in severe damage to buildings and igniting a significant blaze. Other regions also reported some missiles hitting infrastructure, but provided no further details. Mexico's biggest railway has temporarily stopped freight trains running in the northern part of the country. The action by Forumex follows several deaths and injuries to migrants trying to ride the rails to the U.S. border. Glenn Cadusale has the details.
There are reports some rail traffic has resumed, but on Tuesday, 16 northbound trains sat on sidings. Forumex says migrants are climbing aboard freight cars and are being injured or killed in the process. Hundreds of migrants congregate outside of rail yards hoping to hitch a ride north of the border. The climb aboard trains individually or in families, including children. The dangers of sneaking aboard a train are many. People can fall off moving rail cars. Migrants also risk being assaulted or killed by gangs. Glenn Cadusale for Malacañang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Azerbaijan has declared a cessation of the 24-hour military offensive initiated against ethnic Armenian forces in Nagorno-Karabakh.
Dünən təxminən saat 13 radalarında antiterror tədbirlərinin başlanması və uğurla başa çatması nəticəsində Azərbaycan öz suverenliyini bərpa etmişdir.
The Armenian separatists surrendered following the anti-terror campaign, resulting in 32 reported fatalities and around 200 individuals wounded. However, ethnic Armenians have contested these figures, asserting a higher toll of 200 people killed and over 400 injured. Neither set of reports has been independently verified. Russian peacekeepers are presently overseeing the enforcement of peace under a ceasefire agreement, which mandates the disbandment and disarmament of the Armenian separatists.
Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has come under fire for his government's perceived failure to support the Nagorno-Karabakh separatists against Azerbaijan's army. Thousands of protesters litter the streets of Armenia's capital city to denounce the prime minister and demand his resignation. Opposition politicians are spreading word of Pashinyan's defeats, one in the 2020 war against Azerbaijan and now the collapse of Karabakh's ethnic Armenians. Russia refutes certain claims made by the opposition, which said that Russian peacekeepers did little to protect the Armenian population in the region. The Kremlin emphasizes that Baku's offensive was an internal action, highlighting the international recognition of Karabakh as a part of Azerbaijan.
Police and protesters clashed Wednesday in the Armenian capital of Yerevan. Thousands of people took to the streets upset over the government's handling of the attack by Azerbaijan. Jude Bellingham tells us more.
The crowd blocked the main road and demonstrators threw bottles and stones at police guarding official buildings in Yerevan, Armenia. Authorities responded with stun grenades. Officers arrested several protesters and warned they would use special measures if the clashes continued. The protesters accused the government of abandoning the Armenian population of Nagorno-Karabakh. Armenian separatists in the region surrendered to Azerbaijan's forces just one day after being attacked. The attack left more than 200 people dead and another 400 wounded. More than 10,000 Armenians have been evacuated from Nagorno-Karabakh. Jude Bellingham from Malacañang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Canada is making an explosive allegation that India may have been involved in the killing of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil, but so far Canada's allies are voicing measured concern about what happened. None of Canada's most important allies, the US, Britain, Australia, and New Zealand, are all knitted tightly together in the Five Eyes Intelligence Sharing Alliance, shared Trudeau's sentiment. They have declared their concern. They've urged full investigations, but none have stepped up to condemn India for its alleged involvement in the slaying on Canadian soil of a Sikh separatist, Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
Yesterday, I think it's incredibly important that we allow the Canadian authorities to conduct their investigation. I think it would be unhelpful to speculate until they have conducted that speculation. Obviously, we have a very strong relationship with Canada, a very strong relationship with India, and what we want to do is we want to see an investigation into this. We expect, of course, full cooperation with that investigation, and we'll wait for the outcome of that before making any further comment.
The government's allegations are particularly awkward now for the UK, which is seeking a free trade deal with India. This can be attributed mainly to China, with India standing in as a counterweight to Beijing's rising power and assertiveness. Modern India has a fast-growing economy that many analysts believe will overtake Japan and Germany to become the world's third largest by 2030. It has become a major power in world affairs with more than 1.4 billion people and one of the world's largest militaries. As long as the West needs India to counter China, it is likely to look away.
On Wednesday, King Charles III issued a call for France and the UK to restore their relations as President Emmanuel Macron hosted the British monarch a glittering banquet at the Palace of Versailles on the first of a three-day state visit. The visit aims to showcase Charles' stature as a statesman just over a year after the death of his mother and predecessor, Queen Elizabeth II. It also gives both sides a chance to show that the almost 120-year-old Entente Cordiale remains alive and well, despite the bitter tensions created by Britain's exit from the EU. Although Charles did not directly reference the UK's departure from the European Union, he set out an optimistic vision of the Entente Cordiale, the pact between the two neighbors which was forged in 1904, calling it a sustainable alliance. For Macron, meanwhile, he described Charles' visit as a tribute to their past and guarantee of the future. King Charles will conclude his three-day visit to France on Friday with a keynote address to the French Upper House Senate.
Nos relations, certes, n'ont pas toujours été pacifiques. Pourtant, ce mouvement d'oscillation, cette valse hésitation magnétique ont contribué à entrelacer nos destins, nos fiertés nationales, à apprivoiser cet ascendant mutuel, French Touch et Anglomanie, pour en faire un ferment d'émulation. Prouvant que s'il y a un sentiment qui est héréditaire entre nos deux pays, ce n'est pas l'inimitié, mais bien la fascination. Je voudrais en cet instant, Votre Majesté, rendre hommage à celle qui exerça sa mission avec un dévouement constant, qui conjugua les relations franco-britanniques au temps moderne, qui chemina durant 70 ans aux côtés des géants du siècle qu'elle s'en est allée rejoindre.
Votre générosité nous rappelle que ma famille et moi-même avons été très émus par les hommages rendus en France à ma mère, dont les funérailles ont eu lieu il y a une année.
Up next, the Philippine Consulate General in Barcelona opens an Instagram account. The U.S. State Department announces projects to help children with disabilities. And UN Climate Ambition Summit opens to warn the world about the effects of global warming. Mata ng Agri International will be back after a short break.
the ever-evolving landscape of modern organizations, HR consultancy firms play a pivotal role in shaping the way businesses manage and harness their most valuable asset, their talent. Join us on a journey of talent acquisition, management, and development as we speak with Dr. Jocelyn R. Pick, President and CEO of Profiles Asia Pacific and Managing Director of People Dynamics, who has been making a difference in the HR industry.
Yung success talaga ng mga company depends dun sa mga tao. So we have to know how to understand them, to find out kung ano yung mga motivations nila so we can encourage them to their fullest potential.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
The Philippine General Consulate in Barcelona, Spain launched its official Instagram account in order to bridge the gap between government and its citizens. From Spain, here's a lovely Apple Joyce Fabros for the details.
In this day where social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram play a vital role in this generation and exert a significant influence, many embassies have embraced the culture of digital diplomacy for its effectiveness and rapidness in reaching out to the world. The ambassadors, consuls, and diplomats can directly engage with the public through social media and get to know their reactions in real time. Also, with the help of social media, embassies and general consulates can encourage the people to engage with other nations and get to know about their cultures by sharing facts about their country, posting pictures about the best places to visit, and sometimes diplomatic missions, and organize events to promote their country. In the launching ceremony of the official Instagram account, Consul General Maria Teresa S.M. Lazaro, during her speech, she made reference to reaching to a much larger audience, especially to the constituents and young generation, so that they can do their job effectively. How will the Instagram account po be beneficial to our fellow countrymen about their concerns po?
Well, for one, we use the Instagram as one of our platforms to educate the Filipinos, especially within our jurisdiction, no? About our policies, about our programs, not in so many words, but through actions and through photos. So, hopefully, pag nakita nila yung Instagram post namin and they have concerns, they can still post their concerns. No?
Part of the event was a musical number performed by talented Filipinos who took time to practice their performances to showcase their gifts. In addition to amplifying cultural or political message, social media also has a huge opportunity to ensure that citizens reach more basic information or providing timely details such as countries' regulations, announcements, visa procedures, and events. After the launching ceremony of the official Instagram account of the Philippine General Consulate in Barcelona, Spain, updates are expected to be instantly posted by the consulate and received by followers instead of having to wait for the newspapers or websites to publish them. From Barcelona, Spain, lovely Apple Joyce Fabros for Malacañang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Healthcare became hard to find in Britain on Wednesday as doctors stepped up their job actions. For the first time in the history of the National Health Service, both junior and senior doctors walked off the job. Emi Capili-Taroja has the details.
On Wednesday, Britain's doctors traded their stethoscopes for picket signs in a protest for more pay. The doctors and government are deadlocked over pay demands amid the biggest cost of living crisis in a generation. As well as money, heavy workloads are another issue. In previous job actions, the junior and senior doctors walked out at different times. That allowed them to cover for each other. This time, the strike has resulted in the cancellation of up to 100,000 appointments and operations. Senior doctors, also known as consultants, want an above-inflation pay hike. Inflation is running around 11%. Junior doctors are seeking a 35% wage increase. The government is offering increases of 5 to 7%. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has told the doctors to go back to work, adding the government will no longer negotiate on higher salaries. Emi Capilita Roja for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The World Health Organization releases its first ever report on the devastating global impact of high blood pressure. The health organization also gives recommendations on ways to win the race against this silent killer. Rosel Feria tells us more.
Did you know that 1 in 3 adults in the world is affected by hypertension? And that this common and deadly condition leads to stroke, heart attack, heart failure, kidney damage, just to name a few? In a recent report by W.H.O, it shows that approximately 4 out of every 5 people with hypertension are not adequately treated. WHO says the number of people living with hypertension doubled between 1990 and 2019. That is 650 million to 1.3 billion. Nearly half of that number do not know about their condition, and over 3/4 of adults with the condition live in low and middle income countries. However, the health agency says if countries scale up coverage, 76 million deaths could be averted between today and 2050. WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says hypertension can be controlled effectively with simple, low-cost medication regimens. Despite this, he says only about 1 in 5 people with the condition have controlled it. WHO recommends 5 components to effective hypertension care: practical dose and drug-specific treatment protocol, affordable and accessible medication and equipment supply, team-based care, patient-centered services, and user-friendly information systems. In Washington, D.C., Rosel Feria for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The U.S. Education Department announces funding over a dozen model demonstration projects focused on improving economic self-sufficiency for children and youth with disabilities. This by creating systemic approaches to enhance post-school outcomes. Estela Dominique tells us more.
$199 million in funding will be granted to 20 innovative model demonstration projects to help individuals with disabilities seamlessly transition to life after high school. These projects aim to prepare them for independent living, competitive integrated employment, and community integration. The funding will be coursed through the Pathways to Partnerships of the Department's Disability Innovation Fund program. Pathways to Partnerships serves as a step to improving economic self-sufficiency. It also focuses on decreasing the unemployment disparity between youth without disabilities and youth with disabilities. It is the largest discretionary grant ever administered by the Rehabilitation Services Administration. In College Park, Maryland, Estela Dominique from Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
In the United States, 2 teens who ran over a cyclist in a hit-and-run incident last month have been arrested and are facing murder charges. This after the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department discovered a video circulating on social media showing footage of the vehicular incident. The police department concluded the incident as intentional, noting that the video confirmed the suspect's intention to knock the poor man out. Authorities identified the victim as 64-year-old retired police officer Taylor Probst.
In the United States, a 1-year-old child passes away after being overdosed with fentanyl, a synthetic opioid 50 times more powerful than heroin, at a nursery in New York City. The drugs in question were concealed within a nap room, hidden under a mat, allegedly by 3 individuals. These people have now been indicted with charges related to drug conspiracy and murder. Local police officers believe that the seized drugs contained enough opioids to kill 500,000 people. One of the suspects is still at large, escaping from the area after the incident. His wife, alleged as a co-conspirator, denies the charges and asserts that she was unaware that drugs were being kept in the nursery.
Russia's emergency services are still out to remove debris from a collapsing apartment. This is after a gas explosion erupted at the suburb Moscow high-rise, killing at least 5 people. RT's Charlotte Dubiensky has the report.
A wall of the house collapsed while search operations were underway, with several emergency workers being hit by rubble. 2 are reported dead, with 4 in hospital with injuries. RT Charlotte Dubiensky brings us this report from the scene.
Well, the latest from here is that we believe that 5 individuals have been killed as a result of this incident that took place just after 8 a.m. here in the suburbs of Moscow. A gas explosion is what we think is behind that huge cavity in the wall. The 3rd, 4th and 5th floors completely blasted out, as you can see those pictures. Now, of those 5 individuals who are reported to have lost their lives, that includes 2 emergency workers who simply came here to help others to try and rescue those from under the rubble. And as we've seen from those images at that point of the second collapse in this building, that wall just coming down like a guillotine and crushing, trapping emergency workers underneath. Now we know 2 emergency workers lost their lives. 4 others have been rescued from the rubble and are now receiving treatment in hospital. Lots of people incredibly shocked here about what's happened, and it's not yet clear whether there are still more individuals underneath that rubble. We believe around 170 people were evacuated from the area. They are all being looked after in a local cultural centre where they're being provided with food and medical care. And we've been told by the regional authorities that those individuals will not be able to go back to their homes. So those who were living in the building affected will be able to have shelter and will be provided with the assistance that they need over the next month or so until the building is reconstructed.
In Romania, a cargo ship explodes after hitting a sea mine on the NATO side of the Danube River. Local media reported that the explosion occurred in the ship's engine room. Rescuers saved 2 crew members, evacuating them to the nearby Sulina port. Romanian Naval Authority, however, announced that there is no indication that the explosion was caused by a sea mine.
2 people are dead after a car bomb exploded in southwestern Colombia. The blast happened Wednesday outside a police station in the village of Timba. Kimioria has more details.
Authorities say the victims are believed to be civilians. No officers died or suffered injuries in the attack. The bomb exploded about 50 meters away from the police station. The early morning attack injured 2 others and damaged a school, hospital, and businesses. 3 homes have been completely destroyed by the blast. No group has claimed responsibility. The region has been plagued by violence. One dissident group, known as EMC, is believed to be involved in cocaine trafficking, illegal mining, and attacks on Colombian troops. Kimi Oria from Malacañang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Greenpeace activists made an unsuccessful attempt to block a liquefied natural gas tanker from entering a port in northwestern France. The tanker is a floating storage unit for gas from Total Energies to replace Russian gas imports. Arlene Campo reports.
Protesters took to the water Monday in kayaks and rubber boats but did not stop the vessel. Despite their efforts, the tanker docked at Le Havre on the northern French coast. The activists did manage to paint the slogan, "Gas kills," on the side of the vessel. Greenpeace claims France has enough gas stockpiled and does not need to import more. It claims the terminal will only serve the interests of Total Energies. Greenpeace says France is going back on its commitment to be the first major nation to abandon fossil fuels. Arlene Campo from Malacañang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres beat the climate crisis drum as he spoke to the UN Climate Ambition Summit Wednesday. Guterres says if nothing changes, we are headed toward a dangerous and unstable world. Thomas I. Likeness reports.
Humanity has opened the gates of hell. Horrendous heat is having horrendous effect.
That's UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warning about the effects of global warming. Those effects, according to Guterres, floods, fire, disease, and displacement as people flee in fear, those effects will get worse if nothing is done. Guterres says there's still time to limit the rise in the globe's temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius, but to do so, he says, world leaders have to pick up the pace, transitioning from fossil fuels.
We must make up time lost to foot dragging, arm twisting, and the naked greed of entrenched interests raking in billions from fossil fuels.
But one of Guterres' allies in the climate fight appears to be weakening. With an election on the horizon next year, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is softening his climate policies.
We'll now have a more pragmatic, proportionate and realistic approach that eases the burdens on families.
As part of his new approach, Sunak is backtracking on a commitment to ban the sale of new gas and diesel cars by 2035. He's also scaling back energy efficiency targets for rental properties. Sunak's announcement has been condemned by both Britain's business community and environmentalists. Back at the United Nations, Guterres continues to preach to the choir.
We can still build a world of clean air, green jobs, and affordable clean power for all.
But the summit will not hear from the world's two biggest polluters, the U.S. and China. They have not been invited to speak. Thomas I. Likeness from Atanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Coming right up, Japanese tech giant Toshiba is going private. The UEFA Champions League is full of surprises. And a rare Bob Ross painting goes on sale. Catch more news in business, tech, sports, and entertainment when we return.
At excited ako dahil bibita tayo sa kusina ng lutong dagat. Wow! Ang sarap naman ng energy dito. Oo. Maganda na lang yung take. Magluluto tayo ng mga seafood specials for the weekend. At 11 o'clock po yan dito sa Net 25.
Kailangan lang ay bilis ng kamay sa pagpindot. May tsansa manalo ng hanggang 180,000 piso.
Please welcome ang Tara Gamers nating nakahera na breadwinners pa.
Perfect ka.
Kanina po.
Saang bansa matatagpuan ang may pinakamaraming army ng BTS?
At Nicolin po. Kumakaita dyan.
Hindi mo kayo na dyan, ano?
Kumain
Ako, alam ko yan.
Easy ako eh.
And this is Tara Game! Agad-agad! Level up!
Disney announced that it will invest about $60 billion US dollars in its theme parks and cruise line in the next 10 years, nearly twice as much as the previous decade. The funds will boost its storytelling, parks, resorts, cruise line, and fan base. Disney Parks announced a 13% revenue jump to $8.3 billion due to a decent improvement in the third quarter. CEO Bob Iger said that he is considering selling the company's linear television assets to focus on streaming services and movies. Meanwhile, according to FactSet Data and Analytics, Disney's stock dropped by 3% after the announcement on Tuesday. Japan's oldest and biggest company, Toshiba, sets to end its 74-year stock market tenure as a group of investors have bought out the majority stake of the company. Toshiba has announced that more than half of the shareholders participated in a $15 billion acquisition led by the private equity firm Japan Industrial Partners, or JIP. JIP has purchased 78.65% of its shares and ownership of more than two-thirds of the firm, which allows them to complete the $14 billion or 11.4 billion euro deal to turn the company private. In the said deal, Toshiba expects that the shares of the company could be taken off the stock market as early as the end of this year. Toshiba's president and performing executive officer Taro Shimada stated that the company would have to take the new major move in the future with the new shareholders. Meanwhile, the company's shares started to trade in May 1949, with them trading stocks from home electronics to nuclear power stations as the Tokyo Stock Exchange reopened after World War II. Chief executive of business advisory firm Euro Technologies said the Tokyo-based company has faced numerous major setbacks in recent years, rooted from inadequate corporate governance. The firm has first announced plans to divide the company into 3 separate businesses, but after revising the plan, they have decided to split the company into 2 major units. Before the new division plan, the company's board added that they will consider the offer of JIP to take the company private. As more content creators turn to AI or artificial intelligence for their artistic expression, TikTok announced that it will launch a new technology to allow users to label content that is AI generated. TikTok announced today that it will launch a new tool that lets users label posts that have been created or enhanced by AI or artificial intelligence. The announcement comes after the social media platform added a slate of filters for video uploads that made heavy use of AI. The social media giant says it felt the need to introduce a tool set for AI labeling because AI content can potentially mislead viewers. The new tool being introduced will make it easier for content creators to comply with its existing policy around synthetic media. It will be available to users upon uploading the video, and TikTok will display a message below the creator's username that the video has been labeled as AI generated. Meanwhile, TikTok won't penalize creators for not labeling AI-generated content that does not fall under the synthetic media policy, and will also not expect creators to go back to relabel their past videos.
In the UEFA Champions League, Jude Bellingham has rescued Real Madrid with a 94th minute strike to earn the Spanish Giants a 1-0 win over Champions League debutants Union Berlin. Madrid seemed destined to take only a point after Union Berlin goalkeeper Frederic Rono frustrated them until Bellingham intervened. Bellingham's strike was his 6th goal in 6 matches for Madrid since joining Los Blancos this summer. Union, in their first Champions League match, meanwhile, could not respond with just 1 minute remaining. Madrid's next game is away to Napoli, who won 2-1 against Braga in Portugal. Meanwhile, Bayern Munich struck twice in 4 minutes in the first half to set them on their way to a 4-3 victory over an embattled Manchester United. Making a winning start in Champions League Group A, the hosts looked in control despite some sloppy defense. Goals from Leroy Sane and Serge Gnabry in the 28th and 32nd minutes put the hosts firmly in the driving seat. A Harry Kane penalty awarded for a handball by Christian Eriksen restored Bayern's 2-goal cushion 4 minutes later before the game ended with a flurry of late goals. The German record champions will be back in action on Saturday when they entertain Bochum in the Bundesliga. Meanwhile, Lionsgate Films has dropped the second trailer for The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Based on Suzanne Collins' novel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is a prequel to the Jennifer Lawrence movies. The film follows a young Coriolanus Snow, played by Tom Blythe, who strives to survive his family's legacy and is also tasked with mentoring District 12's tribute and Panem's favorite, Lucy Gray Bird, played by Rachel Ziegler. Coriolanus then works with Lucy to keep her alive in the Hunger Games, where he begins to battle between good and evil. The trailer also shows a peek into the ancestry of characters from the original series, including Jason Schwartzman, Hunter Schafer, Peter Dinklage, and Viola Davis. Directed by Francis Lawrence, The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes premieres in theaters on November 17.
Bob Ross's first completed TV painting from hit show The Joy of Painting goes on sale for nearly $10 million. Ross was known for his unpretentious style of painting on his long-running show, as the painting is now on display at the Modern Artifact. The owner of the gallery Modern Artifact, Ryan Nelson, stated that Ross created the piece on his show's first episode back in 1983. He also added that he became interested in art by watching The Joy of Painting and saw this as a great opportunity to display the painting for a larger audience. The gallery has displayed its first TV painting entitled A Walk in the Woods, the first of more than 400 artworks produced from the show. A volunteer at the station first purchased the painting for an undisclosed price and hung it in her home for 39 years. Nelson bought the painting from the volunteer last year and tagged it for a price of $9.85 million. Meanwhile, Ross hosted the show from 1983 to 1994 before his death in 1995, inspiring a generation with his encouraging approach to idealized scenes of nature. And before we send you off tonight, here's a quote from American football coach Bear Bryant. If you believe in yourself and have dedication and pride and never quit, you will be a winner. The price of victory is high, but so are the rewards.
That's great, because I think that victory doesn't mean getting the prize or the championship.
So right.
Victory is just learning from the experience and allowing it to let you grow.
It's a whole process that goes into the goal.
Yes.
And once you get it, it's the
ultimate reward.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the ultimate reward, for sure. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point. Watching Mata ng Agila International. To receive more trusted, connected, and on-point news, follow, like, and subscribe to @Net25 TV.